I've had a real keen interest in livestock since I was a kid in DeWitt, Iowa. We raised hogs farrow to finish, and we had a small cow herd.
In my first year in 4-H Club, I've learned many things this past year. One of the things is to never give up on a project no matter how bad it is.
As far as I was concerned, put your boots on every day, know that you're going to get knocked down, just make sure you get them back on the next day. And I kept reminding myself that you've got a lot to learn. This was a course in Iowa State called ANSI 225. I wrote a paper, Cattle Artist with the Judge's Eye. For the last 15 years, I've observed cattle through livestock judging. Consequently, I've become efficient at pinpointing structural differences from one animal to the next. I drew these two pictures and I talked about the difference in them. I was absolutely backward. My major professor called me up and said, "Brian, do you know of any young person that would be interested in working with a herd of cattle in Wisconsin?" And I said, "What would you say if I told you I was interested?" People, this is what we do. That's a New York strip, and this is the ribeye. When Lori and Brian arrived in Viroqua, Wisconsin on a Tuesday, the 28th of February, the following Tuesday, one of those cows kicked an old pipe stanchion gate, caught me right here below my eye. First 3 weeks, I was just recovering from getting my face bashed in. And I do remember thinking, what did I get myself into? All I did every day was I would get up and go outside and build fence, because there weren't any fences. We started with 35 cows. We weren't locked into any tradition. And while at Iowa State, I participated in a computer cow-calf game, and the computer cow game allowed us to create matings, and then the next day we could see our new calf crop. It made sense to me. EPDs were launched by the association around 83, 84, 85. We embraced the use of EPDs. We knew they weren't perfect. We learned early on that they didn't all work. I still had a lot to learn.
It's October 2nd, and it's sale day.
Right about that time, it was just terrible inflation. I mean, it just felt like everything was coming apart, like nothing was going to be worth anything.
I want to thank you all for being here.
We felt like a couple rats getting on a sinking ship.
An event like this and the things that go on here at Woodhill don't happen without teamwork.
You pick up the farm newspapers here in Wisconsin that spring. There were 6 farm sales up and down the road. Everybody was getting out. It wasn't a good time.
He'll tell you everything that he knows about these cattle and find him to be one of the most...
There was a large pushback on the whole EPD concept, that we didn't need a set of numbers to tell us where the good ones were. I did find myself frustrated. Tradition can be a powerful foe. It's tough to break in. 4 years after we arrived, I was looking at taking another job. It's about making sure that you've got perspective right, okay? So you sketch this out, and there's his shoulders, and there's his jump muscle.
Brian is extremely honest. He's not going to fool himself. The guy who screws up and then tries to hide it only makes things worse, okay? When something goes wrong, you recognize it, you try to deal with it, and that's been one of Brian's strengths.
It was important that while I was kind of convinced I knew what I was doing, I refrained from being arrogant, because we truly didn't know. So we swallowed our foolish pride and moved on, tried to make them better next year. Through those years, I formulated some opinions of how I thought it was, and then we stepped back and say, was I right or was I not right? And we weren't afraid to admit it when we failed. Cattle breeding is an art and a science. I can't mate all my cattle on the computer. That's where I start, but we have to evaluate cattle visually for traits that we don't have EPDs for. We're all very biased toward our own livestock, but we have to face the facts. Not all of our matings work. The data evaluated from a logical, mathematical perspective will lead me down a path that eliminates bias. That has served Woodhill well to capture that information as it happened, not as we would like it to happen. You know, from time to time people ask me, why would you even consider judging a show if you're such a proponent of data? The reason that I still really enjoy judging shows, especially junior shows, is because that's where I got my start. Being a 4-H kid in Clinton County, Iowa, the biggest thing that I wanted to be sure was that the judge saw me.
My calves weren't the best, so I tried to make them look good. I know what to pick now, so I will pick better calves next year. I've learned to work for higher goals and to give your project the best of all time.